Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for watching on the Osceolas YouTube channel. You can also check us out, listen on the Osceolas Apple Podcast app. Senior writer Curt Weiler, I'm editor Bob Ferrante in Charlotte, North Carolina again for ACC Kickoff. If you're not super familiar with it, Florida State coach Mike Norvell, 3 players attended this media gathering where we ask a lot of better questions than talk about. This isn't talk about season, but it's a good time to catch up on the program, developments from the off season. Mike Norvell made a very good decision, very interesting decision to bring 3 homegrown players. There were a lot of good transfer options. DJ Uiagalelei could have been a good option, but he really put out a nice message saying he thought it was a good idea to allow players from the 2023 team to reflect on past experiences about how far the program had come. So, Curt, you got to talk to all 3 of them. They were really good, different interviews, but a nice storyline for Florida State going to 2024.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more it made a lot of sense. I think in some ways Florida State kind of avoided what would have been a DJ Uiagalelei circus had they brought him. I mean, a lot of Clemson people, a lot of ACC people, I think would have loved to have talked to him, and that would have been a storyline. It still somewhat was a storyline with, Mike Norvell got asked about the quarterback, and we talked about that. Yeah. But yeah, I think it worked. It worked well for Florida State that they had 3 guys who were on that team last year who lived through the ACC title and the snub and talked pretty candidly about that. Josh Farmer didn't try to saying, we're pretty pissed about it, I think was the quote from Josh Farmer about the snub. Obviously a tough situation that I think a lot of people, and I think Pat Payton said, it's something I'm going to be thinking about when I'm 40 or 50. And they really left out a 13-0 Florida State team and we didn't get to go to the playoffs. But at the same time, this feels like a moving forward step. I'm interested to find out this week at the end of kickoff where Florida State sits in the pecking order. Are they picked to repeat? With all they lost, is a Clemson viewed in that spot? Is a Miami Dark Horse viewed in that spot? I'm fascinated. But a lot to like about the reps they brought. It's 3 guys who, for Florida State, for all the transfer portal talk, 3 guys who have gone from 3-star recruits, not highly recruited guys, to All-ACC players. Darius Washington, first team All-ACC last year, Josh Farmer, second team, Pat Payton, honorable mention, and probably should have been more, I think you can argue. So a great representation of Florida State being much more than the transfer, some of its parts that some people kind of try to say.
Mike Norvell said at one point, again, reiterating 2023 was a special team. He has clearly turned the page, even though there are a lot of questions about how Florida State reacted to the snub and has moved forward. I think from a moving forward standpoint, Mike Norvell very much praising consistently this offseason how players worked in the offseason strength and conditioning program. Consistent praise for Josh Storms and the staff. They've definitely been elevated to those, not necessarily support staff like the support staffers, but the unsung heroes, so to speak, the guys who work hands-on with the returning players, with the transfers. Mike Norvell again saying consistently, this has felt like the best off-season as far as the way those guys have worked, put in the time. That's a great, I think, catapult for this team as we look again forward to the fall.
For sure. No, I think it's hard not to imagine how things ended last year would be quite a motivator for the guys who are back, and I think even some of the guys who come in are motivated by wanting to change that, wanting to not have anything like that happen. And I guess the good thing for Florida State, we're in the 12-team playoff era. If they manage to win the ACC, they will be in the playoff this year. There won't be a repeat if they win the ACC, so they can kind of, and I think we think they'll be right there. Some DJ Uiagalelei talked today, even though he wasn't here. I know Mike Norvell talking a lot about how good the spring was for them finding out how he's going to work in their offense, him finding out how their offense works. I know a lot of praise for how he's gone about things, and really, I think came in with a level of humility that he really impressed Mike Norvell. And Mike Norvell also kind of candidly saying, I want this to be the best year of DJ Uiagalelei's life. He hasn't maybe had the career you'd expect from a 5-star recruit, but obviously an opportunity here to do some special things at Florida State, depending on how things break down. I think we should also talk about, you wrote up the Jim Phillips story today on day 1 of ACC Kickoff here. Obviously, Florida State going day 1 because they have to hurry home to start practice on Wednesday. It means that Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, also talked today, and was maybe a little more passionate than we've seen him. I feel like he sometimes lives in that monotone world a little bit with what he's saying, and he got a little passionate today.
I think we used to comment that John Swofford was maybe more politician than commissioner, and kind of measured in his words and responses. And if you were just reading the transcript of Jim Phillips, you'd say, well, you know, it sounds similar to what he said in May or in March or in January. If you're listening to it, if you hear certain sound bites, you hear the passion, the fiery in the voice of he's going to defend the ACC. He does feel like it's disruptive what Florida State and Clemson are doing as far as these lawsuits. I think the zinger, I want to remember the quote as close to it as possible. The ACC is bigger than one school or two schools. I'm not sure he intended it to be the zinger, but man, once you heard it, you're going, that's the quote. That's a quote that I think he probably might have wanted back to some extent, but I think he also wanted to underlie the message is Florida State and Clemson are doing this. They're still friends. It's still a collegial relationship as far as day-to-day with presidents, ADs, coaches, student athletes, but it is disruptive. It is something that is taking away from the time of the day-to-day, of what Jim Phillips does, of what people around the conference office do. So yeah, there's that relationship. I think to some extent it's weird, like Mike Norvell was asked what it's like to have the ACC logo behind him while he's talking. And this isn't a Mike Norvell thing. He doesn't care about that. Like, he's been asked before, the players care about that. The players care about winning what the games that are on their schedule. Exactly.
But I mean, it is just further evidence of this doesn't seem especially close to a resolution. I mean, there was not much talk about finding a resolution for this. It was, I think Jim Phillips knows the ACC would be in trouble if things don't go well, if they weren't to win out with Florida State Clemson. So with the deadline looming, it seems like nothing's going to come of it this deadline. So we'll have to see how much longer these court proceedings go down the road.
The court case is moving very, very slowly. That's a podcast or a video for another time.
Yeah, and neutral, I would say. It feels like Florida is winning in Florida, or Florida State's winning in Florida, the ACC is winning in North Carolina. Probably not surprising to anybody.
Right. So we'll see where that develops. That's, again, another story for another day. So again, this is Monday here in Charlotte. We'll be driving back to Tallahassee on Tuesday because camp is literally opening on Wednesday. It's one of the earlier starts to camp because of the Week 0 game. So full coverage on the Osceola.com. You'll want to be subscribed to this YouTube channel if you are not. If you are, thank you. Check out the Osceola.com for Curt's story on the homegrown players. We've got a full kind of recap of what Jim Phillips said. If you want to eat your vegetables in full, read that. Also videos, transcripts, and more. The guys, Jerry Cutts, Pat Burnham, Nick Carlisle, they'll have a full show for you on Tuesday, kind of previewing camp, what they want to see, what they're wanting to look for from the Seminoles. But for us, for Curt Weiler, I'm Bob Ferrante. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you all. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Football's back.